Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool would give up a chance for a 30% discount.
Remember the babies? They found a place to put them. Now they're growing up. And they want to come home. And they're hungry. It's Alive Part 3, Island of the Alive.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello.
This week, we have a special guest. Our old friend Leo is back. How you doing, Leo?
Doing great. What's up, guys?
Just chilling.
Just chilling.
What does it Snoop Dogg says? When you're ready, you don't have to get ready. I'm messing up the quote already.
There we go. You've ruined it all already, Kevin.
No, Uncle Snoop says, I stay ready. Because if you stay ready, you don't have to worry about getting ready.
Boom. Boom. This week, we're discussing the horror classic. It's Alive 3, The Island of the Alive.
Where they didn't stay ready, they didn't get ready, and it was all a mystery to them.
What? Nobody ready for nothing.
Nobody ready for nothing.
You have Michael Moriarty. I've seen
Again.
far too much Michael Moriarty.
Dude,
Lately.
I
If I'm being
feel
honest.
like October and November are all Michael Moriarty.
Moriarty Thunberg.
I tell you, it's the face, isn't it? As soon as you,
Oh my God.
even if you didn't read the cast, as soon as you see that face, it's like, here we go again. It's
It is.
more
It's
Michael.
gonna be
Those
some
eyes.
bizarro choices. Yes.
Sweet Jesus. And Karen
Dude.
Black is in this.
How different would Law and Order be if this was the Michael Moriarty that showed up there? I might pay extra for that.
You think, I mean, granted, it was just Law and Order, but it kind of gave him like a level of gravitas in my mind. Like he was
And apparently based on nothing. How did he get that job to begin with?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because that
Based
gave
on
him
Q, or was it
it gave
this
him
film?
it gave him a more respectful level, didn't it? Yeah, the Law and
yeah.
Order thing, it gave him it took him up a few notches, if you will.
Dude, because I'm working backwards. I started with Law and Order. Now I'm seeing behind the
Me
curtain what was
too.
going on.
Well, me too, until I realized, and going back and watching movies like this, that no, actually, I'd seen him before, but kind of maybe just put him out of my mind. Or
That's
something.
right. Couldn't be the same guy.
he was Larry Cohen's De Niro to Scorsese, right?
Yeah.
But
Boom,
he's
there
like
you
the
go.
star.
Pearls, Kevin. Pearls.
It's like Q, The Stuff, The Island of the Alive. Not even It's Alive, but the third goddamn sequel to oh sweet Jesus.
He
What are
was
we doing?
Larry's muse. He was Larry's muse.
He 100% was. Anyway, each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. Sweet Lord. Aaron, how are you doing?
Dude, first of all, I just want to say that I have not brushed my hair, and I am wearing the clothes I slept in, because I went to a Thanksgiving, a Friendsgiving party. So
Glad
I
it wasn't a
literally
walk
had
of
to go in this outfit with an Uber driver to go pick up my car.
What kind of party was this? By
For
the
a
way,
moment
the
there,
Tea
for a
Party?
moment there, I thought Aaron was
It is
describing a
literally at
walk
our-
of shame situation.
Totally.
It was literally at our cousin's house, and there
That
was
makes it
like
weirder.
there was like 10 people there, but I did have 4 glasses of wine. My whole dinner was wine and English toffee.
And again, still not explained why you haven't changed in 2 days.
What?
I just didn't feel like it.
Sweet Jesus. Good Lord, help us
Okay,
all.
well,
But beside that, I just want to share that I did binge watch this weekend Say Nothing about the IRA, which was so good. My family's obsessed with anything Irish or anything about the Troubles.
We're not all obsessed. It's our brother
No.
Brian who thinks he
No.
stepped off the boat like
Stop
Patty
your lies.
O'Neill or somebody.
Dude, stop your lies. You and I can both rattle off like a dozen random Irish movies.
Can we?
The
Please.
Secret of Rowan Inish?
The Leprechaun, does that count?
The Leprechaun counts. Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Okay.
And then we saw in the 80s and 90s, maybe because you're younger, there was like 1,000, there was like The Crying Game, there was like 1,000 movies about the IRA.
Okay.
Neeson was Michael, whatever the you know.
well,
I have to agree with Aaron on this point, but I would
Boom.
like to see something that's more factual about the IRA instead of just movie adaptations.
No, this one's based on the book. We read the book.
Yeah, because
So-
fun games.
the whole
It's not all fun
IRA
and games.
situation, to be honest, has always fascinated me. But I've always felt like we don't get really good information about what's really happening, and I would love to do so because I'm just curious like that.
I remember in the 90s, I'd go to Irish festivals up in the Bay Area, and they'd be fundraising for the IRA right there. You could buy a Bobby Sands t-shirt. I'm like, holy moly. It's not just Celtic knot jewelry. It's some real.
But I will tell you this. I don't know what it is, but there's something about acronyms that kind of make me a little skeevish. And there's something about those 3 letters being put together, IRA. I don't know what it is, but it sounds a little bad. But I know they're technically the good guys, right? But it just sounds like
Are they?
IRA.
Are they?
Are
I think and both sides are god awful, but
they?
really, we can blame the British. Let's just
Well,
say
when
that.
when you drill down, who's at fault to begin with?
100%.
Who started it all?
They're
The British
to blame.
love to partition countries, so yeah.
I mean,
I don't know
even
what to do. Let's just cut it in half. That'll be fine.
look at South
Works
Africa.
so well in India.
Look at South Africa. I mean, Africa was
yeah,
fine,
right.
and now there's a South Africa. What?
true.
What?
Damn colonizer.
There was Africa, and then there was South Africa. I
Case
don't think
closed.
that's how the history book goes. Boom.
Done and done. It's a wrap.
We're talking about all
Boy.
sorts of interesting stuff.
We're all over the map. The globe,
Well,
literally.
it leads right into It's Alive 3
It
Island. of
really
the
does,
Alive.
actually, right? This is all topical.
More partitioning, right?
More partitioning. It's true. Oh my gosh. The
We'll
poor
get there.
little babies.
We'll get there.
We'll get
Just like
there.
the Indians and the Pakistanis, you know.
Aaron, why don't you give us your 30-second synopsis of It's Alive 3, The Island of the Alive?
First of all, I don't know if you watch any Wes Anderson films, but for some reason, I kept thinking this was like the Isle of Dogs. I don't know if you ever saw that. But instead of Japan bans all dogs, so they send them to the Isle of Dogs. So it's kind of like that, except instead of dropping crates of dogs, they're dropping crates of razor tooth babies.
Yeah.
But people can't. It's like Jurassic Park. They want to keep rolling up and checking out the babies, who then, like velociraptors, strip you to shreds. Except now they're 5 years old. They're reproducing, and they're at least as tall as Tom Cruise.
They're at least as tall as Mickey Rooney.
At least
Mickey Rooney.
And some of these babies still crawling are like ripped. There's like not an ounce of fat, but they're like all bulky and oi, 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 oi. And then, like War of the Worlds, mysteriously, they are all dying. So they have to get on a boat so they can take the pregnant lady and drop it off with Karen Black, because she'll know what to do with it.
That was the craziest shit.
It makes no goddamn sense.
Dude, it's funny because it's crazy for us, obviously, but you don't realize how crazy it really is until somebody walks into the room and they're like, "What are you watching?" "Oh, there's killer babies." And you're like, "That's even crazier than I was thinking it was."
Bad babies.
We've been inoculated, unlike the children in this movie. We've been inoculated to think, yeah, it's crazy, but it's kind of normal crazy. No. Killer babies, it's a whole nother level of craziness.
That's right.
Sweet.
Children of the Damned, but they're 8 or 9. What we need are newborn infants ready to rip your throat out.
But at a certain point, it wasn't the babies anymore.
Right.
Because even at 4, they were the size of men.
Yes, but still the same proportions. It's like they become giant babies. It essentially
they do become giant babies.
Wearing trench coats.
Oh, God help us.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
It is
Island. That's why they don't call it Island of the Alive Babies or the Island of It's Alive Babies. Just Island of the Alive.
Of the Alive.
Does that describe every island? That the people who live on that island are in fact alive?
I mean, if you go to Tahiti, are they not alive?
That's what I'm saying. They're all alive. And
I have never been to Tahiti, so I cannot testify one way or another.
What about Belize? You smoked trees in Belize before, Aaron?
I smoke no trees in Belize.
Belize is not an island, as far as I know, by the way.
Oh, it's not, is it? Sorry.
And as far as I know, it's everybody's super conservative, crazy uncle is now living in Belize. So,
it's been ruined.
Put a hard pass on that.
It's been ruined.
No, it's been soiled.
Much like
conservative retirees. I ain't paying the goddamn taxes.
Oh no.
Okay, fair. Now, Aaron, have you ever seen this movie before?
I didn't even know it existed until we were recording It's Alive 2. It's still alive.
We still don't know what the name of the second movie is. Is it still alive? It lives again? No one knows.
That's what it was. It lives again.
It lives again. It lives again.
Yeah, that was originally the subtitle. It was It's Alive 2, It Lives Again. But you can find posters that have that on it. But for some reason over time, all you see is It's Alive 2.
And it doesn't that makes no sense because it's different babies. It's not that same one is back. This time it's personal.
But it's important that all the babies be the same age always.
Correct. They're all infants. They're
all either newborns clawing you out, or they're all toddlers, or they're all a bunch of Mickey Rooneys having babies and getting busy.
They're never toddlers. They're never on 2 legs until they're adult-ish, whatever they are.
Well, the only saving grace about It's Alive 2 was it was I felt like it was not that this one isn't it, but it continued the first story very well because you remember Gene met with Frank, the original guy. And so just calling it 2 was fine because it was like, well, yeah, this is the continuation of It's Alive.
Right.
And
Frank played a big
lives
role
again because Frank thought his baby was the first and only one, and then it got killed or whatever. So part 2 would be It Lives Again, because now Gene and his wife has one. So technically it lived again. So there you go.
Okay, in spirit.
In spirit.
And why wasn't Frank over in It's Alive 3?
I think Frank was dead by
Or Gene? Why aren't they digging out old Gene? Why isn't he popping up?
Well,
Leo,
I think there was a contractual stipulation or something.
Could be. Now, Leo, you've seen this before, correct?
I have a confession. I have never seen this one before until this.
So we're 0 for 3 here. None of us
We're
had
0 for
seen
3.
this movie. It's
So-
our virgin voyage here.
And here's the reason why. By the time this one came out, this was released in 1987. I was a senior in high school. I was already jaded by sequels anyway at this point, especially horror sequels. I was already at the point where when people keep making these movies, it's just getting stupid. Even as a young guy, I knew it was just dumb. And so I just ignored it. I knew it existed, but I never watched it for whatever reason. I was just like, well, whatever, F it.
This was direct to video, though, right?
No.
This didn't play at a theater.
I think it went to it had a cinematic release.
What?
I remember the commercials
so it could
too.
be nominated for an Oscar? Is that
I
why?
remember the commercials too, and I would tell everybody, my friends included, I'm like, man, that's dumb. That looks stupid. Blah 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 blah. They should have just left it alone. Even at 18, I hated sequels.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, honestly, this is, later 80s, right?
Yeah.
But this was still kind of early to be like direct to video. I don't think direct to video became a thing until a little bit later.
Till like the 90s?
Yeah, like mid to late 90s, at least.
All right.
Right. At that point, it's like you wouldn't release these movies theatrically. This level of quality, that's straight to video. So at the time, though, you had to release it to theaters.
Yeah,
Just
at
cross
the
your
time,
fingers.
if you were releasing something straight to video, it was not considered
Good.
non-sexual, if you will.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That is true.
there was a different, there was something else going on there. I think the word snuff may have even come to play a couple times.
Maybe even stuff. And what's funny is in this movie, they talk about pornos. He's like, hey, I found your book back by the pornos.
Tony. Exactly. But this was that period of time, and I talked about this on another show, where you could gauge how good a movie was. Like if you saw the commercial and you were like, well, I don't want to go see it, or I might go see it, but you could gauge how good the movie was from the time that it was released to the cinema and to the time that it was released on VHS. If it came out really quick on VHS, it probably sucked. If it took a little while for it to hit VHS, it might be pretty good. So,
right. 100%.
like your blockbusters, they didn't come to VHS for at least a good year.
Yeah, like a year. So you had to rush to the theater.
But these, like this one, they came out the following month.
Released on a Friday, on video on a Tuesday. Right. Pretty much. Oh my God. It's a sad situation. Why don't we jump right into the highlights? What do you guys got? What do you got, Aaron?
Dude, there's so much weird thing.
Buff
blind babies that never grow up wandering in a forest, and they already know how to survive. Did they build little tents on the island? What the hell?
Well, they were the evolution of mankind. That's what everyone keeps. I will give this movie credit. I will give this whole storyline credit for that. That's been that through line through all of them, was the people, the scientists and the doctors that wanted to keep researching them. They were like, this is the potential evolution of man. We need to find out what's going on. And that right there, what you just mentioned, Aaron, how did they know to survive? Well, it's the evolution.
But it's not the evolution, because at the beginning of this film, they talk about they had to get rid of the evidence of their medication so they can bring it out later and not be. This is like a thalidomide thing.
Right.
See,
So-
it brought it full circle. You guys remember when we watched and talked about the first one, and I kept telling you guys there was a medical reason, and they kept trying to hide it and blah blah blah. This brought it back full circle.
Well, you
I
thought
agree with
Frank
you.
was involved. That was your conjecture.
Yes.
That it was Frank was secretly
Because
doing
Frank
it.
knew and I still stand by that, and I will die on this hill that Frank knew.
Like a
and he got
Rosemary's
paid off.
Baby situation.
Yeah, exactly. He got paid off. Frank got paid off.
Oh, very upsetting.
But
I
let's
don't think he's
remember.
smart enough to figure that out.
He was like an
But let's
addict
remember-
or something.
Let's remember the actual beginning of this movie was pretty gory. The taxi
yes.
cab scene.
Yes.
Oh my god! Where the cop just starts shooting the baby,
Yes.
like between her legs. Boom, boom, boom.
It's one of those things. I don't know if the cab driver's like, I'm not picking up a pregnant lady ever
Dude,
again.
the cab driver was so mad. He was like, "Will you just hurry up, get her out?" He's like, "Put
Get
her
her
on
out
the
of the
street.
cab.
Just put her on the street. I don't care. I'll leave. I don't care about the fare."
Well, that's the beauty of these, is that there is a certain level of humor that runs through it because they are all so ridiculous.
It's goddamn ridiculous. Now, Michael Moriarty is now the new father of the
Yeah.
latest baby. And this movie introduced like the whole like stop motion animation for the baby.
Starting in the courtroom.
Right. Ever since Q, now Larry Cohen's like, hey, I'm a master of stop motion animation. So let's work this in.
We
Right?
need more. We need more.
Oh God. It was
And then Michael Moriarty in the courtroom makes no goddamn sense. 1 minute he doesn't even want to look at his baby. The next he's talking to it like it's his beloved child and he wants to save it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I wrote this down. It reminded me, Gene did that in part 2. Remember, first he was like, he was scared of it, but then he cared about it. Then he wanted to save it, but then he was terrified of it, and he
Right.
kept flip flopping back and forth. It was like kind of like if you want to give the movie a negative, kind of like the same story. It's the same guy doing the same thing, but just with a different name. He hates it, but he loves it.
I mean, he never looked at it all this time. I mean, I gave birth to a child and it was placed on me and I looked at it. I'm like, this thing has giant eyes. It looks like an alien. And that's what I said to my husband. I'm like, he looks like E.T.
Did he have claws and fangs?
He did not have claws and fangs. And in fact, I grew to love the child I made with my own body.
Wait, I thought
He
only
no longer looks reptilian.
I thought only men said that because usually the woman is like, "You don't see how beautiful this baby is." Not you, Aaron, huh? He's like,
Dude, he had like a long torso because his dad had like long torso, short legs, and my son got all of that. So he was reptilian.
Does he listen to the podcast, Aaron?
He does
My
not.
nephew.
And he is in the next room right now.
Probably
I was about to say
crying.
because this is going to come up in trauma. This is going to come up in trauma therapy. Trust me.
100%. I'm traumatized, frankly.
I learned the lesson is I learned to love my disfigured, hideous child.
Oh my gosh!
No, this let me say this. In these movies, the parents' motivations swing wildly. Like you said, and it's not just the father, even the mother in It's Alive too. 1 minute she's like holding the baby, suckling it. Next, she's like pulling the gun out of the cop's holster, like, kill it! Kill it!
Take him out.
A simple timeout would have sufficed, in my opinion. No, it was because in the courtroom, Michael Moriarty's like, I don't want it killed, but I'm scared to hell of it. Don't make me look at it. Would you please look at the creature? Would you please
bend down and put your head inside the lion's mouth? I mean, bend lower. Look at it.
Right.
But you know what was funny though? The prosecutor said that, but then when he got down and he started talking to it, he was like, "Judge, can we end this? Can we break this up?" It's like, well, dude, you were the one that said make him face it so you could try to prove your case that it was a monster. And then he's like, well, no, don't do that. Don't do that anymore. Don't do that anymore. And then his own lawyer was like, back up, back up.
Right. We have to protect this fool from himself. Because he's reaching in. The thing is in a steel cage with like King Kong with like the thing around his neck.
Yeah.
And he's reaching in there.
And then suddenly he gets in a fight with all the cops in the courtroom.
Yes.
How come these fucking babies don't have names?
Well, this one did.
Don't kill the prosecutor. Little Timmy.
Michael called it Baby Moriarty.
Baby Moriarty. 100%. 100%. But because...
No, what was his name? What was it? No, he called it...
what the was his name?
I
Joshua or Jason or something.
I don't know.
Oh, wait. Because I wrote their names down. Jarvis, Baby Jarvis.
His last name was Jarvis.
His last name was Jarvis,
That's what it was, 100%. But because they have a special father-son moment, even the judge is like, hey, guys, put your guns away. I will not allow you to harm this child.
After that stop animation motion of the baby bending the bars like King Kong when he bent the bars to get out.
He snapped the goddamn steel.
And then they showed it. He snapped them in half. And then he ended up on the judge's desk acting all sweet.
Crawling around.
Oh, judge, please don't kill me. Don't kill us. Love
and
us.
the judge is McDonald Carey, who used to be on my mother's soap opera, Days of Our Lives.
This is his last film as well.
Oh.
Shocking. I know.
I mean, he looked like he was 106 in this. So,
well, your career's not on the upswing when you're on It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. Sweet Jesus. So then, what do? They have a bunch of babies in cages, and like you said, like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, they just drop the goddamn cages in the jungle and just say,
because they assumed they'd be fine. This was the kind thing to do.
Right. There's no shelter. They're not airlifting food. It's just like, you little freakish monsters, you're going to have to eat some squirrels or some shit. You're on your own out there.
It was kind of like a stopgap measure, though, because the judge was like, hey, no harm can be done to these children. And the prosecutor was like, well, what do you expect us to do with them? They can't stay here. So he was like, let's give them their own place to stay. So it was kind of like...
I feel like that was judicial overreach. I don't think a judge can decide babies are going to live on an island.
Yes. Well, they tried to hint at the fact that this wasn't just happening in this court, because the judge said, well, if you ask my friends in the Supreme Court, I'm sure they would agree. So he had some... Yeah, he had a little clout to what he was doing. And so he was like, let's just move them off. Let's just put them offshore like lepers.
like
Molokai.
Only if the lepers were babies.
Just give them a leper island.
This is a war crime. You're not allowed to just dump children on an island and say, fend for yourself, little child. Like, they're infants, goddammit. Anyway, what happens later? Suddenly there's like local big game hunters who just who perish.
This was the weirdest.
Those were the scientists.
No,
they were
group first. Go ahead, Leo.
They were, but it was a very weird continuity jump because it was just change of scene. Hey, we're on helicopters. Hey, let's all go down and hunt these babies. Hey, by the way, I'm the one who developed these drugs. Hey, let's shoot them. Hey, let's capture them. It was very disjointed.
It was bizarre. It was like, who the hell are these people? And you're right. They kind of were there only to give you some information about how this dude was the one who developed the original drug that caused all the crazy mutations. And that after this dies down, we can now remarket the drug. And then what? Have crazy mutant babies again?
They gotta take the crazy part out of the gene, and they become like the Sacklers. This is the Sackler family.
Well, clearly, they're already like that. People know that they're responsible, and it's just like, we're good. Okay, we pulled the drug. What? No harm, no foul. Right?
Or he's trying he's trying to breed the family, like in the Wrath of Khan. He's trying to breed Khan. He's going to extract that gene, and whatever it is that makes these babies so advanced and so powerful, let's turn that into obviously.
Right. They never develop normal vision. Even like 5 years later, when they're freaking 6'4" and 220, they're still
just
like
strong
double
and
vision.
savage.
Yes.
But they sure hit their targets when they come flying through the trees at you with their one giant sloth claw.
They have like 2 fingers on each hand.
And an insatiable appetite, apparently.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
In all sorts of ways, evidently. Good Lord.
I think really it's not the medication, it's the fact that Karen Black and Michael Moriarty had a child together. I think this is just the natural consequence.
That will do it at least the crazy eye will definitely come through from the Karen Black
That has to
side.
do with the focus, yeah.
100%. When one eye is cross-eyed, I guess you get double vision.
I feel like that was a joke that happened when this movie was released originally.
Now, is it just me? Did it seem like Karen Black was criminally underused in this movie? Like she was barely in it.
The explanation of their marriage and divorce and what she eventually ended up doing made zero sense.
Yeah.
So she
has
left
a lot
to go
of crazy inside. And they did not use it.
But she ended up working at an amusement park.
I think it was like kind of a Coney Island or Atlantic City Boardwalk kind of situation.
Which is
like a
what?
punk new wave club, and she worked it with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Which is a what? Amusement park with an arcade.
Right. It was some kind of bar, but like the stage where the comedians was like directly in front of some kind of stairwell. That seems like poor placement of that stage, if I'm being honest. It's bizarre.
I do want to step back real quick to a piece of my notes where old dude was trying to run off the island and he caught up to the helicopter. The guy that got his arm ripped off, and he's like, "We gotta get out of here!" And the helicopter pilot was like, "Oh shit, you're right!" And he just jumps in the helicopter and takes off.
Leaves that dude behind.
And just leaves him. That's the billionaire who's putting on this whole thing.
Yes,
but
you ain't cashing that check until he gets home.
Yes.
But the pilot gets attacked, and I just wrote "baby on board."
Baby on board. Look out, you need the little triangle.
100%. Well, I appreciate the guy getting attacked on the helicopter, and then the helicopter just explodes midair.
Well,
how did that happen? Was the baby filled with napalm?
Well,
what are we
typical.
doing? Did the baby eat some nitroglycerin before it climbed in?
Kevin, you do know if no one is at the controls of a helicopter, it will spontaneously explode in midair, right?
It will self-destruct.
That's just engineering.
That's just how they do.
That's just science.
A design flaw, some would argue.
And clearly they did not have the budget to actually explode a helicopter.
Because it went off camera. And you just see these
like
little
bits
pieces
of plastic falling down.
Correct.
It was like a Tyco model. Like, dude, you got to build this model.
At least in the 70s, when a car exploded, you saw that explosion.
That's true. There was no budget for that. Let's talk about how at the amusement park or the carnival, Michael Moriarty is hit on by a hooker.
Mm-hmm.
And his first reaction is not interested until he sees her throw a couple strikes. And then he's like, on second thought,
you got an arm on you, girl. You might be able. He was like, "What that?"
I didn't know you were good at bowling.
He was like, "What?" Nah, he was like, "What that arm do, girl?"
What that arm do? Exactly. That was Laureen Landon, who we see a few years later in Maniac Cop.
Yep.
Sweet Jesus.
And it's funny because when I was watching her in this, I was thinking it felt like she was auditioning for that next role. The way she was standing and she had those cargo pants on and she's trying to look all tough. I'm like, she's getting ready for her next role. This is just a stopgap.
She was not, you think about like the hookers you see in these kind of movies in the past, wearing like sequins and shit. Yep. She was just dressed like she just came from the mall or something. Mm-hmm. She's just like, well, I'll pick up a couple bucks while I'm here.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. I gotta get my bowling money.
Sweet Jesus. And then smash cut, they're at her house. We've talked about this before. Do hookers typically bring someone to your house? My house is around the corner.
I feel that's not a good idea.
That's a no-no in the biz, typically.
So
From what I
again,
hear.
this was the first time I watched this. So when he first got hit on, my first note was he gets hit on by this woman and she's kind of aggressive. And I put prostitute with a comma or a question mark. But then it was like, well, it's kind of obvious. And then they go back to her house and there's all those stuffed animals. I'm like, well, she's obviously a prostitute. And every guy that goes to her house gives her a stuffed animal.
I think we're
Instead
supposed
of
to
rent
think,
money?
I think 100%. I think we're supposed to think she's really good throwing those fast pitches at the carnival. And
No,
keeps
she's
winning
good
the
at
stuffed
throwing
animal.
something. She's good at throwing something, and it's not the pitches.
Blah, blah.
100%. 100%. Good Lord. Now, smash cut 5 years later, Michael Moriarty has written a book about his freakish experiences, and he's now like selling shoes to children at the mall.
At
Yeah.
Kinney's.
At Kinney's, and he hates it because everybody's horrible.
Well, first there's the very awkward scene where he's with his lawyer at that party,
Yes.
and she's talking about selling this book, and then he's like, "Well, no, I don't want it to be like that." She's like, "I'm trying. We're going to sell the rights." Because she's like, "We're not making any money off of this, and I need to get paid. I have a staff that needs to get paid." And then he just starts telling all these weird, off the wall jokes to people. Like, dude, come on.
You know, this is Michael Moriarty was just like, Larry, I'm just going to riff.
I'm
Every
going to
now and
riff.
again.
Yeah.
And you can tell when he's doing it because everybody else just kind of looks at each other like, what is happening right now?
And he does that forced laugh.
Line.
And he
When
does
he's
that
hitting
forced weird laugh, and his eyes get all big.
Yes. when he's on the boat, when they somehow convince him to join the expedition back
Yeah.
to the island, which makes absolutely no sense. And the scientist is like, yeah, we're going to catch one and then like do vivisection on it, experimenting on it while he's alive. He promptly is just hitting on her. Hey, you know I'm divorced, right? Why don't we get on this? Hey, you just ruined my whole trip because you turned me down for sex. Yeah, it's just like people are like, what the f- is he
I like
talking
how
about?
Kevin is just all over the place on my notes. I'm like,
That's how I do. I'm like Michael Moriarty. I'm deep
that's how you're rolling just like Michael. I'm like, I can't
He's
keep
like,
up.
baby, I'm Stephen Jarvis, father of the monster. Let's go. Let's
I'm
make
sure you
another
know
monster.
me. Dude, when he gets to Cuba, he says that too, basically to the
Okay,
guards. He's like, don't you guys know me?
God, this movie. It is so bizarre. Because he doesn't, oh God. So when he goes with them on the expedition, he doesn't really want them to catch the babies, right? He's
No,
trying to
he-
sabotage the mission.
He doesn't even want to be there, first of all. And then, secondly, he's like, we should just leave them alone. Why are we here? What do you guys? And it turns out he was actually right. He was like, didn't we say we were just going to leave them alone and let them be? Why are we here?
Right.
And so he just starts goofing off the whole time.
He is. He's totally going, and there's a scene where he's singing a weird Irish sea shanty from the back of the
Again,
boat.
Kevin, my notes are just, you're just like,
It is stream of cut where it's so
because
bizarre.
I was like, when they first started getting the team together, they do that whole weird scene that reminded me of Jaws, where they're doing we're all getting together and then they're singing a sea shanty together, and
Yes.
like, come on, they're just ripping off Jaws right here. But
Yeah.
The scientist lady gets pissed off and storms away, and then everybody else just starts doing like a 5-part harmony on the Bizarro.
they were having fun.
I guess. You know, it was like, we're about to do a scene, and then Moriarty's like, F it, I'm just going to start singing a weird shanty. So
You
get
know
on
what would be
board
cool?
or storm out of the room. And that's what she's like, I'm out of here. I don't know what I'm trained in Juilliard. How am I supposed to do this?
for this shit?
I was going to be Ophelia. Anyway,
I do want to back up a little bit, though.
please.
One thing that kind of stood out to me was when they sent the babies off, and then when he's there to do the book signing or whatever, blah, blah, blah. One thing they mentioned, they were like, well, everything's cool, though, because now that they're all gone, there's no more mutant babies being born. Why was that?
Because
The
they
drug
stopped
is
using
off
the
the
drug.
market. Right.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
The drug's off the market.
Yeah, but just because they shipped the babies off?
No, they took the drug off the market that made the babies mutant. That's why there's no more.
I must have missed that point then, because it made it seem like, well, now we've gotten rid of all of them, and now it's all over.
Well, I think that goes back to that scene with the weird big game hunters who go to the island, who are just like, now there's no more babies, and maybe the fervor will die down a little bit, and then we can start mutating the next batch. I guess
I must have missed that. I must have missed that. Okay.
I mean, I don't think that they're trying to create more mutants. They just don't want to change the formula of whatever the that thing.
Whatever
They're
the
trying to
drug
make money.
does.
That's capitalism. Yeah.
Right.
It's big pharma.
We can't be bothered to change the formula. It's
Right.
like Coke Classic or New Coke, basically.
And we don't want to get sued, so we're going to go wipe out all the evidence in case it happens again.
Gotcha. Because that didn't make any sense to me, because the cop
Still
was
doesn't
like,
make much sense, if
Well.
you ask me. But good grief.
I
What-
can't understand how the babies sneak up on anyone when they're so asthmatic with their wheezing. You can't hear that shit coming up.
From a mile away, right? Again, they're on all fours crawling along like a little slug. And they
But
get at
sometimes they can launch themselves at you and like bite you on the shoulder.
Let me ask you this. Did you guys recognize there was one dude who was in all three Alive movies, and they brought this
Oh.
dude back, like the famous police officer? Who
Yeah,
was in
the
first
detective.
one. The
Yeah.
detective. He's the one who recruits Michael Moriarty to go
Mhm.
on, and he gets left behind on the island. We don't know what the hell happens to him.
Well,
we know
he's
what
the,
happens.
we know what happened. He's the cliffhanger for the next episode.
For the
That's what
next
that was
You
chapter.
about.
can't jump off the fucking ship, swim to the island, and go, you're leaving without me?
And why look, we're jumping all the way to the end, but why was his complaint, you can't leave me here in the sun? The doctor told me I can't be in the sun.
I can't be in the sun. But I
What?
can be in the tropics.
What? You're on an island of potentially killer people and whatever creatures and yada yada yada, and you're talking about you can't be in the sun?
That's
You
right.
won't be in the sun for long, so you won't have to worry about the cancer.
I mean, are there any monsters still on the island, or did they all get on the boat?
Well, we
no,
don't
there's
know.
only 4 of them.
Well, we don't
only
know.
4 were on the boat.
Right. How many are on the island? We don't know.
We don't know
don't know.
because they were left alone for at least 4 years. And we do
I
know
mean,
that
one was
we do know they
pregnant.
was knocking boots because somebody got pregnant.
100%. Well, they were trying to mate them in the second one when they were still clearly infants.
Mm-hmm. So
Remember that? They're like 3 or 4 should be about the right time.
It is so. Who? What?
Based on nothing.
I want to go back to when Michael was working in the shoe store,
Please.
though,
That's classic.
with the Karen that walks in. This was Karen before Karen was Karen.
Yes. 100%.
Oh my gosh. And she was like, what are you talking about? These shoes don't fit. And he goes, well, haven't you heard about the great shoe conspiracy where we're purposely trying to ruin kids' feet? And if I had shoes big enough for your feet, I would ruin those too.
Just random shit. Random shit. It
Whatever.
was like Married with Children. Remember, he was the shoe salesman.
Yes.
Oh, Al Bundy.
It was Al
It's
Bundy.
Al Bundy. If he had mutant children.
Oh.
No, whenever Moriarty goes off on one of his crazy monologues, you know it's like they just threw the script in the trash and said, go ahead.
Just let him go.
Just let him go.
Larry's like, let him go.
Just let him
You
go.
can't be controlled, just like the mutant children cannot be controlled.
Oh my gosh.
Then we have to go to the scene where it's like, what is it? Karen Black is walking down the street and she's harassed by some dude who's like, I know that you're the mother of the mutants.
That's her boyfriend.
Tony.
Is that her boyfriend?
That's
Yes.
Tony. That's
I thought
Tony.
he just liked her and was like trying to force her to have sex with him.
Well, he eventually you hear the whole backstory as to why he's harassing her.
Right. I found that old book by the old pornos, and so I know who you are, lady.
Better
So
not
you
let
better-
those pictures get out.
Get in the car. And then she throws up in his car and he is indignant. How dare you? I know people. I can have
Dude.
you killed.
Dude,
I
you
can have you
you
killed
can't
for
throw up in my
vomiting in my
Porsche,
car.
bro. You can't throw up in my Porsche. What's
Don't
wrong
do
with you?
I
That's
love
what you get.
She runs to her apartment and he's yelling at her, and you hear random people go, would you shut up? And you shut up. I can have you killed too. It's like, what is the scene? What is happening?
He's so rich and powerful because he owns the carnival down by the beach. He has people.
Bizarre. It's bizarre. And then there's like street thugs, like Death Wish punks or something.
Okay. I'm
Dude,
glad
I
we're
thought
getting
they
to
were the
this.
Warriors.
I'm glad we're getting to this, even
Go
though
for it.
I can't keep up because you.
I'm jumping from lily pad to lily pad.
So, why was there a random? I just wrote it down as a random rape / gang fight.
Yes.
Is that where the punkers were trying to rape one of the Go-Go's?
And
Yes.
but why was there a girl trying to help the other guys rape a girl? What the? Does that happen? Did that ever happen? Look, I grew up in the 80s. I lived through the 80s. It was weird, but it was never that weird. There was never a time where there was a street gang of people trying to rape a girl, and a girl in the gang was trying to
must die.
help them rape her. What the?
Sudden Impact had a rape assistant that was part of
that was
well, yeah.
the title.
What's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever. She was. What the hell's her name? I totally butchered her name. She was helping out.
And it was just so weird
Yes.
because the girl, they were walking by and the dude was like, you got to try some of these drugs. And he just bites her neck. What? What the fuck?
They call that drug PCP, I think.
I believe so.
It was very popular at parties.
And she's like, no, get off me. And the next thing you know, a brawl breaks out. And they're just trying to
Yes.
rape her because she said no, she didn't want their. I don't know. I've never been involved in hardcore drug culture, but if someone tells you they don't want what you're offering is the appropriate response to try to rape them.
It's time for a raping.
She said no, let's get her.
And she was wearing too much fluorescent, so that
Very
angers
pink,
people.
very pink. I mean, even too pink for the 80s, apparently.
That's right. We don't want any Bangles listeners around here, by God. You won't take our drugs,
Oh
and
my
now you're
God.
dressed like a Bangles.
She seemed to have like kung fu skills half the time.
She
Like,
beat the
was
shit out of a lot of them.
She was kicking people over like the railing. And I was
Kicked the
like,
dude off and not only did she kick him off of it, she jumped down after him.
yes, she wanted a second helping.
That wasn't the only ninja fighting in this fine film.
They
Yes.
piled up all on top of each other. too.
Yes, I
Now,
did
at the end, the one baby was ninja fighting all the dudes down
Well,
the
then there was
rooftop
that,
to,
yeah.
Oh.
to save the couple.
And the cops were flying off the roof like it was the top.
50 people died battling the ninja baby.
Right, it was like the Burj Khalifa. They were just flying. Ah!
I like that. That was my favorite part, the sound effect. They would all just say, ah, ah.
You don't have to throw yourself off the roof when the baby gives you a crescent kick, right? You can just fall down. Oh,
But-
sweet Jesus.
But again, let's pull it back. Let's pull it back
it
a little
back.
bit.
Go for it.
Pull it back a little bit. So remember when Ella was in the car with Tony and he's telling her, we're going to do this, do that, because I got these pictures of you. So when I want to come up I'd come up and do whatever I want with you. And she threw up in his car and he got mad at her. She gets out, runs upstairs, and she's like, F you. And she goes inside. And then Tony gets unalived by the mutant.
Correct.
Right? But 5 minutes later, Ellen is already in bed, deep sleep.
She didn't give a damn.
It took a lot out of her. All right.
And she was like, whatever, good night. Like, already deep sleep. And then that's when the baby wakes her up, or mutant, whatever you want to call them at this point, because I stopped calling them babies because they're not babies anymore.
No, they're big now.
But she was already in her pajamas and already in a deep sleep.
Yes.
And no one saw this guy laying out on the sidewalk by his car.
I just think this is just every day walking home from work. This is
Because
the day
all
of
the
my
people
life.
that was yelling at him when they were arguing, and no one noticed, dude, that guy that we were yelling at is laying out by his car and he's dead.
Dude,
He's
they're
dead now.
They're not rats, man. This is a neighborhood full of crime.
Is this like South Beach or something? Is this Miami? Where it's just, if it is, that explains a lot. I mean, I saw
I guess so. But how did
Miami.
and how did she get to sleep so fast? This just happened, and she went inside, and she's already fully tucked in and cozy and deep sleep. She's in REM sleep before the thing busts through the window. How?
she sees the creature in the window and just picks up her phone. Doesn't say, I'm going to call the cops. She throws the phone at the creature through the
Chucks
window.
it at it.
Opens the window, basically. Come on in.
Come on in.
Oh my
No.
gosh!
This shit is nuts. Okay,
Oh,
so let's go
so
back
much.
to
So
Michael
much.
Moriarty is back on the island with a bunch of scientists, and they're all just getting wiped out because he's like kind of, again, sabotaging because he's kind of like cracking wise and making jokes, totally inappropriate.
First
for
of
the
all,
situation.
let's pause for a second.
Please.
For those listening audience, Kevin has rewound us back to the halfway point of this movie
Yes.
because the last 10 to 15 minutes of this conversation is actually the end of the movie. So-
Correct. Well, it's look, if you want to break it down, it's basically courtroom to the island.
Island.
All right. Okay. Crazy big game hunters are killed there. 5 years later now. Okay. Michael, now they're assembling a team to go back to the island to get one and experiment upon it. They're all wiped out. Okay. Except for Michael Moriarty, who's on a boat with the now grown-up freaks who are psychic now. He can read their mind and they can read his
Yes.
mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
That's the new magic.
Glad you
'cause
picked that
he's
point
taking
up.
the same drugs, I guess.
correct. So they have him be the captain of the ship just because they figure you're a normal human. You must be into sailing, right? As one would expect.
Or because his son was on the boat with his wife and his
Yes.
grandchild, and he told them, "Don't touch that dude.
Correct.
That's my dad. That's my daddy."
That's my dad. And then eventually his mutant son throws him overboard on a steel door, which is buoyant for some reason. Right?
He
And
did that
It's
to
the
spare him.
Titanic all over again.
He did it
And
to
I-
spare him. Yeah.
He's trying to spare him, but because yes, leaving somebody in the middle of the Atlantic with no hope of rescue is saving someone in this bizarre world.
better than what he kept writing in the diary of they keep eating all the bodies. Eventually they're going to
Yes.
start looking at me, which at that point in my notes, I wrote, in a way, this movie was more, it should have been called The Boat of the Boat of the Alive instead of The
100%.
Island of the Alive, because there was
Correct.
more time spent talking about the life on this boat. You know, it was like
Yes.
Captain's log.
Captain's log.
Another one. I don't know why they won't get rid of the bodies, but I keep noticing them down in their eating. So yeah,
I do appreciate how spontaneously now he's like, I'm keeping a diary. I've never done this
better
before.
write this down.
How about a little voiceover to go with this portion of the movie? Never established voiceover any other time, but
Right.
now we're doing that.
I have a
Um,
question.
Please.
What was going on the boat before the baby showed up that involved the crew being naked?
Yes. Yes. We saw we saw There was bare ass, male ass,
Bare ass.
multiple. Because it was Michael Moriarty first gets on the boat and all the crew is dead and one is bone ass naked, just flunked over, ass to the camera.
Every scene of the dead involves that ass.
Correct. Then 5 minutes later, Michael Moriarty's like trying to call Mayday, SOS, and one of the big mutants is carrying that same naked ass
Ass to the camera again.
100%. Brown eye making eye contact from the moment he walks on the fucking deck. It was, we get it.
Well,
He's
Aaron, there's a little thing that you probably, I don't know if you've heard
Is
about
it the
this.
law of the sea? Are you going to explain
you're
your
on
naval days?
you're on the West Coast. I don't know if you guys
In
get
the
this,
Navy.
but
You
it's
sail the
something
seven
called,
seas.
it's not the law of the sea. It's called the secret of the sea.
The secret of the
It's taking a
sea.
turn.
You
Hang
know,
on.
sometimes when sailmen, ship's
Sailmen!
captains, when they're all
Seamen, you
together,
might say.
seamen. I didn't want to use that word because it has a different connotation. But when they're all
Appropriateness here.
together, crewmen, you know, sometimes they have to spend a lot of time out there alone
There are
together.
men who prefer the company of men.
Well, not
I've
that they
heard-
prefer,
And they're called sailors or seamen.
not that they prefer.
There's a
it,
lot
but
of seamen in this film.
they prefer company, and you know, your nearest company is often your best company.
Love the one
If
you're
you
with.
can't be, we'll love the one you're with.
That's
That's the
Stephen
secret of the
said.
sea.
Love the one you're with. Oh, for sake. Yes, that was bizarre. No, the reason, okay. The
Literally
reason why-
emboldened on my notes. I was like,
Highlighted,
why is
underlined.
everybody showing it?
Yes. The reason why there was a naked man is because his son put on his clothes.
Oh, that's right.
That's what it was.
He put on his dirty underwear too.
Correct.
Well, and Michael eventually asked them, he was like, is that what you did? Is that what you did? You just took all their clothes and then left their bodies here? Remember him?
To explain the nudity.
Yeah, that's how they explained it away, but it did not come across that way. Because if
It
you were
did
just sitting
not.
there watching it,
Bullshit.
it was a throwaway line that you might not even notice.
right.
Versus 25 minutes of bare ass coming at you in 3D.
Well, and the clothes don't even fit. He looks like the Hulk halfway through
Yes.
the person,
100%.
and yet he's Mickey Rooney's height.
Yes. Sweet Jesus. Oh God. No, I mean,
Because the babies didn't want to be naked anymore.
Well,
Correct,
they
like
have,
Adam and Eve.
they've grown up. I mean, you know, when you start maturing as a teenager, you start realizing changes in your body. You know,
and it's perfectly natural.
it's perfectly natural.
Happens to all of us. So after getting,
I went from briefs to
marooned-
boxers. I mean, you know.
I mean, they weren't on the blue. This is not the Blue Lagoon. This
It
is
wa-
nibbly babies who eat people like they're crunching potato chips. Kind.
and presumably they had food in the galley for the non-mutants among us, right? To make the cruise back to civilization. Wasn't there any food in there? No, we prefer just eating people, evidently, because we're mutants.
Because they're babies and they've only been showed that you eat people. Kind.
So Michael
That's your
Moriarty.
reason.
Michael Moriarty's floating in the Caribbean, and he's picked up by the Cubans, and that's why there's a bizarre interlude where he's where the communist Cubans have
Bro.
taken him in and are going to torture him for information. They think he's a spy or some shit.
I wrote, this is the most stereotypical,
Yes,
almost borderline racist scene of this movie.
borderline. That's being charitable.
I was.
One of those guys was Armenian. I mean, it
Oh
wasn't even close. It's like, what are we
my
doing?
gosh. I was like, seriously.
But there's a positive message because the kindly Cubans take him to Miami and release him and shake his hand and go, "You go get your baby, sir." In the
Because they
I'm not going
loved
to
him.
replicate the Cuban accent. It was so offensive. Not since
It was
not since
so
Rod
bad.
Steiger and the
Dude, it
Specialist
was
have we
worse.
been so offended.
It was worse than Scarface worse
it was
than Al
awful.
Pacino's Scarface. It was worse.
I
So
love
much
Al-
About Charlton Heston and Touch of Evil as
Right.
the Mexican
Oh.
police
Oh.
officer.
If you, I love Al Pacino because when he did,
I
was thinking about
love him.
this.
And I loved Scarface, but when as you mature and you revisit these things and you
Right.
go, oh my gosh, this was awful.
Not culturally sensitive.
At
Say,
all.
first of all, Scarface is a terrible movie. Let's just put that out
Whoa!
there.
No, I can't get to that point. I will still never say it's
still
a
love it.
terrible movie. I
I'm
still
not gonna
love
lie.
it.
I still love it. But-
It's sorry, Aaron. It's a testosterone thing. You wouldn't understand.
100%.
Apparently.
No,
No, chainsaw to the head.
That was like the best scene of the movie. Now the leg, huh?
and you think that's bad, then you go see Carlito's Way, and you're like, "Are you from Texas? What is this accent you are doing, Al Pacino?" Right? Anyway,
Oh. Anyway.
good stuff. Good stuff. So the kindly Cubans release him back in Miami, and this is now the thrilling conclusion of It's Alive, where the babies are tracking down Karen Black, the mom.
Her name is Ellen. Let's stop saying that actress.
Ellen Jarvis, who who abandoned Michael Moriarty, changed her name, and moved to another state
Yeah.
to avoid the mutant babies.
Which-
she's not
To
happy.
avoid Michael
wait.
Moriarty.
Can we stop for a second?
Please.
Because this kind of threw me off a little bit. Because if you go back to the beginning of the movie,
Yes.
when he goes through court, blah, 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 we don't even know her yet. But it's like the third scene in the movie, he's just there talking to her. So did he just fly down? Did he just randomly fly down to Florida to go visit her and we weren't told this? Or was he in Florida the entire time? Because he
He's
kept
got
making
that shoe money.
he kept making a point about going to Florida. The baby's going to Miami and blah, blah, whatever. So
Right.
when he was in court, was the court taking place in Florida too? Or
We
were
don't
they
know.
somewhere else?
It's
Yeah.
a mystery.
Unclear.
Because he made
Unclear.
it sound like she had moved away from him after they divorced.
I mean, the opening scene seemed vaguely like it was New York.
It
But
was
who the
New
hell
York.
knows?
The cabbie said, remember
This-
that guy? He was like, I never thought being a cabbie in New York would be like this, and I would end up birthing a baby or whatever, having a pregnant woman in the back of my cab. So when
Unclear.
Michael Moriarty went through all that at the beginning, was that in New York or was it in Florida?
Well, first of all, the whole movie's filmed in Kauai, in the
Oh, here we-
Hawaiian Islands.
All of it,
Oh,
or
well,
just
for-
the island part?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
According to my research, the whole movie was filmed in Hawaii.
that urban metropolis. Is what you're saying. Interesting.
It's got all those sky rises and everything. It's perfect.
100%. Oh my god. So, did they already have measles, or did they get the measles when they appeared on the island, or what is happening?
Apparently,
Uh,
it
Why do you
happened.
think Why do you think it's measles?
Because they're dying.
They just said a
But they
rash.
don't. I didn't see any spots. Measles or spots?
I thought they said that they've got measles. First, okay, the one
I only
who-
heard them say they have a rash because that
They-
one cop was like,
Well, there's
because-
chafing in a moist environment.
oh my God. That's called marathon running. But
That's true.
when the next towards the end, when the medical examiner shows up, the one lady, she was like, oh, they don't touch them because they have this. Maybe that's when she said that. Then maybe she said rabies or what was it?
She
Measles.
said a rash.
Yeah, and then that one cop was like, "Oh, great! Now you tell me because I touched it."
Right. Because the It's Alive creature basically saves the woman from being raped, and then it's
Yeah.
gunned down by 50 cops for its trouble. Basically,
And remember, and again, I bring up again that one of the first people that it threw off of her was the girl who was helping people
Correct.
rape the girl. Why is
Correct.
she there? What are you doing?
right. Absolutely.
What the fuck?
No, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, they were going to Miami to find Karen Black, the mom of the head mutant, to basically say, hey, Grandma, would you raise our mutant child? Because we are dying from measles.
Why don't they give it to Dad, who's right there?
Because moms know best.
Moms know best.
And he even said that they believe that you know how to take care of it. But
just like you took care of us.
Well, they're breastfeeding that damn thing at one point. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Karen Black was?
No.
Oh yeah, she was like, I want to have nothing to do with it. She's on the roof like, get it out of my face.
that thing's getting nowhere. I'm sorry, that's gonna be a formula bottle.
And then eventually she softened up. That thing's getting nowhere. That's their new tagline.
That thing's getting nowhere. 100%.
So but yeah, that was their thing. They were trying to get to her because they believed that she would at least take care of the baby. That's what it was.
Based upon no evidence to that effect. Again,
Kevin, they're
Michael
mutants.
Moriarty hung around to at least go to court over the shit. Where Karen Black is like, I'm just going to become a cocktail waitress in the Miami.
I'm about 40, 45, so I'm going to be a cocktail waitress along with all the 20-year-olds.
That's true.
And
She
be able
never
to afford a great apartment.
She was never any of the court hearings. Like
No.
you didn't even show up for child support, bitch. How come they taking the baby to you?
Right. 100%. And then the couple, they kind of hold hands lovingly, the mutant couple, and then they die of measles. Smash cut to the extended kung fu shootout.
Yeah, where the cops are just all randomly shooting in the air while they're trying to fight him, but they don't shoot each other. Dude, there's bullets flying everywhere.
You do not have to physically engage the mutant.
We don't know who took who out.
And shoot it like you did the other one.
Yeah.
Anyway, good Lord. Any other thoughts about It's Alive? What do you guys got?
Yeah, if they all have measles, the baby's got measles. It's highly contagious.
Well,
I'm from a time where, I mean, clearly, Robert Kennedy wouldn't have had them vaccinated, but since they murdered all the doctors, they didn't get a chance to get their shots. But
hey,
I had
time
measles,
they got it.
mumps. I don't know if I had rubella.
And well, the last time they got a shot from the doctor, they gave birth to a hideous freak. That's why they're vaccine hesitant, you might say.
Maybe that's where Robert Kennedy gets his beliefs from. Is this
from this movie? 100%.
This is it, right? Oh my gosh, we've cracked it.
That's facts. People told me that.
That's it. They've told you that, have they? I saw RFK recommended It's Alive.
Oh my gosh.
Any other thoughts and feelings? What do you guys got?
I liked how I feel like the fight scene was done as a distraction so that they could sneak off. It shows them sneaking off out the back door while the cops are trying to shoot the mutant and blah, 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 missing him. And then they run downstairs and they steal a guy's car while everyone is obviously paying attention to what's going on the roof. And you got all these cops and they're all training their guns with all these people around them and everybody's paying attention. When they jump in this guy's car, he's like, hey, get back here. That's my car. Blah, blah. And the baby's screaming. And Michael's like, shh, shh, be quiet. Be quiet as we take this car. But it didn't be quiet.
Yes.
And they all jump in the car and no one turns around noticing this car speeding off with the screaming baby, except the guy whose car is being stolen.
It was nice of him to leave the keys in the ignition, right?
Thanks, dude. Thanks, bro. Because, when I get out of my car in a public place, that's what I do. I just leave it in the ignition.
Leave the engine running.
Of course. Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? 100%. Why
and then they're driving off and they're laughing like maniacs and joking around.
Right. Because now they're cool with raising a mutant baby. Right?
Hey,
2 years
it's
earlier,
beautiful.
not so cool with it.
So what we know is there still could be an island full of mutants, but we know for a fact there is a mutant somewhere being raised by freaks Somewhere in Miami.
Yeah,
By
somewhere.
freaks, you mean Michael Moriarty and Karen Black.
Correct.
Freaks enough.
Terrestrial.
And don't forget the island is being raised by a freak
Detective, what's his name?
detective who can't be in the sun.
He's like Marlon Brando and Island
I
of
was about
Dr.
to
Moreau.
say, oh my god, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's apocalypse now.
We watched
The
that documentary.
apocalypse of the alive.
That's
There it is. We got the next title.
Jesus. Shall we go behind the scenes?
Lay it on
Yeah.
me.
Do it.
Let's see. Both this film and A Return to Salem's Lot were intended to be released direct to home video, but were given a limited theatrical release first. So there you go.
They deemed it so great.
Yes. 100%. And Michael Moriarty also in A Return to Salem's Lot. Same,
Oh my
Larry
God.
Cohen, unrelated to anything Stephen King wrote. So that's good. Larry Cohen wanted to do a remake of House of Wax, and Warner Brothers was not interested. And they said they wanted him to do another Alive movie. So that's why. So there you go. The film's opening cab sequence was used in Clint Eastwood's fifth and last Dirty Harry movie, The Deadpool, as footage from a murdered director's filmography to show the kind of films he was making.
Oh, I remember Deadpool. I enjoyed that freakish show.
Liam Neeson
too.
was the director
Yeah.
of these movies. Larry Cohen famously said more people probably saw this sequence as a part of Dirty Harry than saw it as a part of It's Alive 3.
I'm guessing that's correct.
The scene in the film where Sally the hooker sleeps with Stephen Jarvis and then discovers that he fathered one of the mutant babies.
We skipped over that. I have extensive notes about that scene too, but we were all over the place. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It made some people think it was a reference to HIV, and Larry Cohen says that was fully intended. He was adding commentary.
Oh, he's full of shit. He
No,
was
it
like,
makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
It makes sense though because it was funny because in my notes the way she freaked out, she was like,
Yes.
"How dare you!" Blah 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 blah, and I just put, "You couldn't have used a condom."
Hopefully you do when you shack up with a hooker at the frickin' at the carnival at the beach. But who's
And
to
she
say?
was like, "You should know this before you try to make love to a woman." First of all, you're a prostitute.
You're like, is that what was going on?
You're a
We're making
prostitute,
love.
first of all. And if the dude doesn't bring a condom, you don't have them? I mean, come on.
She's like, that's cool. No biggie. Oh, sweet. We talked
I
about
honestly, I 100% believe that was not planned. But someone said to him, "Is that a reference to HIV?" And he was, "Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
certainly was. That's
I'm,
the ticket."
I'm so innovative and forward thinking. I'm glad you called up to me.
all of my movies are social commentary. Absolutely. We talked about this. Larry Cohen made 3 other films with Michael Moriarty. Cue the Winged Serpent, The Stuff,
Yes.
and A Return to Salem's Lot.
And of course, the stuff is the best amongst them.
Oh, I
It
love The
is
Stuff.
true. Can't
Just
get
can't
enough
get
of
enough.
that
Can't get enough of that stuff.
Michael Moriarty would sometimes have Larry Cohen remove the other actors while he performed close-ups, and he would instead react to what he said were imagined versions of them. That's nice. Clear the set. Clear the set.
That feels
So
very
ridiculous.
egotistical, doesn't it?
It's so
What?
bizarre.
What?
It's very
Um,
Moriarty.
Get everybody out of here.
The film's
Don't
shark
look me in the eye.
do not directly.
I don't want to see the face. Don't look.
The
That's
film's shark fin footage is borrowed from the film The Old Man and the Sea from 1958.
And he kept screaming, "Shark! Shark!" And he's on the door by himself. Like, dude, why are you screaming shark?
And a scene where a ship in the distance is liberated from the film The Sea Chase from 1955.
Why was
Sounds
that?
like an Ed Wood film where he's like, I got some stock footage I'm slicing together. I can
Oh,
make a whole
100%.
film out of it.
That part
100%.
kind of confused me too, because before he was thrown overboard, they showed that
Yes.
that boat, and I was thinking, well, they're going to do that to throw him, draw attention to the ship, so they'll come and pick him up. But that's not
Nope.
whatever. Yeah, that's not what happened. It was just
Had
like
nothing to
it
do
was
with
just
anything.
randomly. Here's a freight ship, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the story. What?
100%. Let's talk about the cast and crew, shall we? Let's see. Larry Cohen was the writer and director. You know him from God Told Me To in 1976. No, I don't.
Unfamiliar.
It's Alive, 1974. It Lives Again,
And?
1978.
And
And something called The Ambulance in 1990.
which was
Unfamiliar.
wasn't that remade again with Kevin Hart and someone else? Was it?
It was not Kevin Hart. It was Jake Gyllenhaal and Abdul Yahya Mateen. If I
Yahya
remember
Mateen. Yeah. Okay.
If I-
Sorry.
I don't think it's related. I just think it has the same.
No, I think that was supposed to be a kind of remake, but not a real remake. But
Oh,
there
for
was
real?
like
Well, then hang on.
there was a
You know more than me.
callback to it, something like that. Yeah, because I remember them talking about it, because I never heard of the original until they made that latest one. Anyway,
Michael Moriarty played Stephen Jarvis, and you have to see his picture on IMDb. Just looks pissed off as hell, like it's a mugshot. Bro, it's a picture. You know him from Courage Under Fire in 1996.
yeah,
No, I don't.
Pale Rider in 1985. That's a Clint Eastwood movie.
I
yeah,
might have seen that.
that was
um,
good actually. Yeah.
88 episodes of Law and Order, playing
Of
Executive
course.
ADA Ben Stone.
Mhm.
And Q the Winged Serpent in 1982.
Which is really his most triumphant role.
Some might argue.
Some might argue.
Oh,
Karen Black played Ellen Jarvis. You
Yeah.
know her from 5 Easy Pieces in 1970.
She used to do real movies.
She absolutely did. The Great Gatsby in 1974, Nashville in 1975,
Yeah.
and House of a Thousand Corpses in 2003.
That's how you round it out.
A little bit of a sea change there, but okay, fair.
Hey,
Laura-
we all got bills to pay.
I don't want to
Lori
get into that
Landon.
conversation.
Maureen Landon played Sally the hooker, who's in one scene.
She's got 4 humps.
So, okay.
Sally the hooker's got 4 humps. Sorry, go ahead.
She was in The Devil's Left Hand in 2023. Unfamiliar. Airplane 2, the sequel in 1982.
Mm-mm.
Armed Response in 1986. And
No.
she played Velda in I the Jury in 1982.
With Armand Asante.
So apparently she's always blonde girl in scene.
Correct.
Dude,
Right,
okay.
and you skipped Trilogy of Terror.
That was Karen Black, but
Oh. Well, you skipped that. I think I tuned out.
in any case, I skipped it. Garrett Graham played Ralston, the attorney, in 5 minutes of the beginning of a movie.
Right.
You know him from Child's Play 2 in 1990. He was in Used Cars in 1980.
I like that movie though. I
That was a
really
good
like.
one.
Yeah.
That was early Robert Zemeckis, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
this correctly.
Mhm. I can't remember him in it though, but I'll have to go check it out again.
A Kurt Russell film. He was in Phantom of the Paradise in 1974, playing Beef.
A classic.
I still haven't watched that, even though I
Beef.
loved how you guys broke it down. I still
it-
haven't watched it. I need
It's
to go.
something. It's something.
It's
I was on
something.
TikTok and someone did a whole beef, whatever, a video was chop, chop, chop of all these different, while music is playing, all dedicated to beef.
In
Huh.
1981, he was in something called The Creature Wasn't Nice. I don't know what the hell that is, but it sounds fascinating.
No, it doesn't.
Let's look at the rating, shall we?
Let's do it.
It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive, is currently 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know what the audience gave it?
38. 38.
16. Womp womp. There's only 2 top critics.
Of course.
One is Nick Shager from Lessons of Darkness, says finishes the series' natural allegorical evolution, B-. Okay. Unclear.
Wait, what was that? What was that guy's name?
Nick Shager from Lessons of Darkness.
Okay.
Joshua Vasquez from Slant Magazine says, stretches the darkly comedic aspects of the trilogy to the breaking point. 2 out of 4. Okay, fair. Aaron, what do you have for your rating for It's Alive, Island of the Alive?
I was thinking we should rate the 3 films, and I'm just going to do it. So I'm going to say number 2 is the best, followed by 3, and then 1.
Okay.
They all have their charms, but number 2 is by far the weirdest and wackiest. As far as my rating for this film, 2.5. 2.5 Mickey Rooney giant babies trying to eat me like snapping into a pork rind.
Crunch, crunch.
Yeah.
Leo, what do you think?
Well, if you go back and listen to the previous episodes of what I said about, especially the first one, which I kind of apologized a little bit on the second one, and you know on the second one how I felt about that. But I'm going to have to go with Mr. Nick Shager on this, which is why I asked you to repeat his name, because I honestly feel that this is the most entertaining one out of the bunch. I saw the first one in theaters when I was younger, the second one later, and this is my first watch of this one. And I have to say, I feel like it's more entertaining. It has more of a graphic feel to it, kind of more horror to it than the other 2.
Ooh.
Because of the blood, it's a little splattery, whatever, but at least it has that. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
Ooh.
Hey, let's conduct a drug gang fight / rape out of 5. That's what I'm going to give it that, because I actually feel like this one, it kind of actually made more sense to it. It had a little more continuity to it, even though it was stupid still. It was still stupid, but it was at least consistently stupid. Had a better storyline.
If you had to rate them all, this is your number 1?
I'm going to say yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. If I want to broaden it out to Larry Cohen's oeuvre, I would say The Stuff is by far my favorite.
Oh, absolutely.
The Stuff is by far.
No, without question. That's his opus.
It's Mr. Holland's opus.
It's Mr. Cohen's opus.
Mr. Cohen's opus is The Stuff.
Then I might go Q the Winged Serpent. Might be my next favorite. Mm-hmm. Then we start getting into The Alive or whatever. But I'll say this, and I think I agree with you. 2 and 3 are so bonkers that they're hilarious. That there are laugh out loud moments of just how ridiculous they are. And in that way, kind of the first one kind of doesn't stand up to on that level. You know what I mean?
It's still weird, but it has a little more boring parts to it. It's still fucking crazy.
It is still fucking crazy. 100%. 100%. I think I might go 3.3 stars out of 5 as well, if I'm being honest. But let's be honest. You're a 2.5. We're 3s. We're all swimming in the same pond. We're all on the same island.
We're right there together. Yeah, we're right there on the beach of the island together. Yeah.
100%. 100%. Michael Moriarty, as always, is just freaking ridiculous
He
in
delivered.
all of these.
He
in all of
delivered.
these.
Have a drink, do whatever the hell you want.
Well, and that's what makes me think about Pale Rider. That was a Clint Eastwood movie. Clint Eastwood directed it. Clint Eastwood notoriously is like, we're doing one take and then we're moving on. But if Michael Moriarty goes hog wild, you're like, do I have to do a second take? That's why Moriarty is not in a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. He's like,
Now I'm gonna watch
He's
Pale
like, I'm
Rider
gonna work
again.
with this dude again.
he's like, bro, do the script so I can move on and hit the links by 2. You son of a bitch. It is, look, in all honesty, if you're flipping channels and you come across one of the Alive movies, I would say check it out. I don't know you need to go searching for it, though. Let's be honest.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's the difference. I don't know if you gotta, like, how did I watch this? This was on Tubi, I think. Is that right?
With freaking ads every
With
2
ads.
minutes.
That's probably the way you want to see it. If it's on Prime for $3.99,
No.
no thanks.
Dude, I
Do
think I
not
had
buy
to
this
pay.
movie.
I think I had to pay on Prime for this.
Oh no.
I'm not going to talk about how I watched it, but go on.
You got some bootleg. You got one of those jacked Fire Sticks where you're streaming movies that haven't even left the
I have
theaters yet.
friends from around the world who
I know people.
they share pieces of documents that come together eventually to form a film. And
You
I
can find
put
it in the
those
back with the
and I
pornos.
was on my Plex server, and then I watched them. And
That's
that,
how
my
I used
friends,
to have to watch my European soap opera.
and that, kids, is how file torrenting works. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
That's how I filled my computer up with viruses too.
100%. Any last thoughts of It's Alive 3, The Island of the Alive?
Another Coen classic.
Like I said, I think this one was the best out of the 3 because the first one was, it was a new idea. That's
Yes.
what gives it its credence. The second one was kind of, we're going to try to stretch this out.
Babies in a maze.
We're going to stretch it out a little bit. But this one was a little unique because it kept paying homage back to those two, but it also took it to another level where, hey, we're going to actually make some gore out of this. They added some gore because remember the first two were supposed to be quote unquote scary, but they weren't really. This one at least added a little bit of blood and some, intent, some intense scenes and whatnot. So that's why I rate it so high. So I'll give it its props.
I mean, this could have been filmed in the 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The big crazy, right? The adult mutants with the huge head and the claws. This could have been some fucking, atomic age. We're
Right.
scared of the Russians bullshit, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, a nuclear bomb testing. Now there are mutant babies everywhere. That's not just the story, but in terms of the quality of the presentation.
Dude, it could have been the military raising mutant babies to drop it in their little cages on Russia or something.
But they didn't do that. They stuck to
They did
the
not.
original storyline as much as they could, and then they expanded the cast. I mean, look how many people were in this movie too. I mean, all the extras, even down to like the arcade scenes. Oh my gosh, bro! For this is beyond an independent budget.
Well, we didn't talk about this. There is a bizarre cameo, I guess you call it. Jean-Claude Van Damme's wife
Oh my gosh!
played the cocktail waitress who screams when the creature climbs out the window. It's like zooms in on her
Really?
face.
She's
Ah!
in my notes again, Kevin. That part was in my notes, and we skipped all over
Yes.
because that's when she got into Ellen's locker
Yes.
and stole her stuff, and I wrote
Yes.
that down. Yeah.
Yeah. Gladys
Ah.
Portuguese. She
Mm.
is a female bodybuilder and currently Jean-Claude's wife. So there you go.
Nice.
This is what we do here on the show. Anywho,
Fantastic.
that being said, thank you very much. We're kind of on social media at the moment. You will not
Oh,
see me
Lord.
on X, though. I'm going to tell you straight up. I will not be on X, but My presence will be returning, I think, on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, maybe Facebook. I'm still deciding Facebook. And we're on YouTube. You can also email us, the podcast that wouldn't die, at Gmail.
Gmail.
We're
I've
on
always
Apple
loved to be a part of it.
Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
Unlike other people with their bizarre protests, I've just continued to ignore X for the past 10 years. I'm still on the gram. The Cult of Aaron, join the cult. You can buy my art. It's on Etsy, not Etsy. What the hell? I'm having a mini stroke. Artsy, First Dibs.
It's in the back with the pornos.
It's in the pack with the pornos. I give you these.
That's that's my catchphrase now.
Better than Kevin, father of the monsters.
That's true. 100%. Leo, if people want to track you down, where can they go? What can they do?
Well, first of all, I left Twitter about 3 years ago, long before the sale and all of this kerfuffle. So really, I'm so glad I dodged this bullet to what it what it developed into. But yeah, and you can catch me on Blue Sky, Instagram. Facebook is more for family. Let's just be honest. Yeah. You can't catch me on Facebook. I just interact with my family there. And TikTok. I'm like Aaron. I can't deny it. I'm a TikTok junkie. TikTok is beautiful. It is one of the best things that was ever created. The algorithm.
The government should ban it because that's the only way I'm not drift off for like 2 hours on just.
It is literally social media heroin at this point.
It is. It's help me.
But I don't want to be saved. I don't want to quit.
You're on the island of the alive, and you don't want to be rescued.
I love it for what it is. But as always, you can catch me. LeoJAllenJr.com is my website. Voluntary input, the podcast. I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I've said it on another show. We're looking at bringing it back probably sometime in January of this year, next year. And then, of course, you can catch my music. Just go to youtube.com at Profound Simplicity. I'm always releasing new music there. And I think that's pretty much it.
Dynamite.
Well, that seems like a lot.
It's because I said a lot. I rambled.
As you know, we like to include comments, questions from our friends across the interweb. Aaron, what do we got?
Well, Bertha Snodgrass and one of her close friends were discussing an old classic, The Skeleton Key, which is amazing. So it's interesting that people are digging in to our TikTok because we literally posted that like 2 years ago. So God bless you, diehard followers.
And one of her close friends that will remain nameless, evidently. Fair.
Damn TikTok people with their, it's like XXXY snark QRM FUCKER.
That'll do it. Next week, we're discussing the horror classic Sinister.
Wait, what did she say? I'm sorry. What did Bertha's friend say? I missed it.
They were just
not so much what they said. They were just showing their support with various emojis.
Oh, I thought she had a comment.
Skeleton Key.
Okay. I thought she had a comment. I'm sorry.
Well, you said Bertha Snodgrass and her dear friend. So I wanted clarification. Anyway,
there was more than one person that were both discussing the Skeleton Key without using actual words.
Okay.
Interesting.
as the youngs do these
Isn't it
days.
interesting?
Yeah.
Well,
It's like
interesting
Egyptian
adjacent.
hieroglyphics. We spend all this millennia of time to develop technology to openly communicate with one another, and yet we resort back to hieroglyphics, and we call them emojis.
Yes.
We do.
Okay.
Indeed.
Fair. As I said, we're going to be doing Sinister next week, starring Ethan Hawke. And I have to tell you, I've never seen Sinister.
I've never seen it either.
It's a good film.
We're going to check it out. I always mix it up with Insidious because they have
Yes.
similar sounding titles.
Which is an
Unrelated.
even better film. I've seen both of them. Good
So
films.
here we
good
go.
films. Yeah.
If you'd like to watch Sinister, you can watch it on Max with a subscription.
Ooh.
Otherwise, you're paying
Finally, I
for
don't
it.
have to pay $4 for a fucking trash movie. Yay!
And the prices have gone up. It used to be $2.99, $1.99. Now it's just $3.99.
Well, you
So-
know, Kevin, with the current administration in place, those prices should. Sorry, I should have.
Right. Shrinkflation is the issue.
Everything's going to be cheap. Those movies will be 2 cents before you know
Life
it.
will be cheap.
That's right.
Yeah.
My eggs will be a quarter.
Yeah.
Gas will be 75 cents, and the movies will all be free again.
All we need
Oh,
are
thank you.
tariffs on turrets.
That's right.
That's all we need.
on everything.
Tariffs on turrets.
100%. So send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. Thank you very much, Leo, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I always love coming on.
Absolutely. We got to do it again soon.
Yes.
Wait. We shouldn't wait so long this time. No question.
I've been begging and then I got ignored, it felt like, for a long time.
So, thank you very much.
I like how he changed the subject. Go ahead, Kevin.
And be well.
Yay.
And be well, Aaron.
Yes, be well.